Wally was a magpie who liked the good things in life, like plump, juicy worms regurgitated, still wriggling, from the beak of his adoring mum, Val, and crunchy crickets supplied by his dutiful but less doting dad, Dave. "He's big enough to be getting out there and finding his own food," Dave muttered to Val. They sat cuddled up together, high in the branches of their home, a lofty lemon-scented eucalyptus looking down on the nest below. Wally lay on his back in his comfortably cushioned cocoon of twigs and branches lined with feathers and soft grasses. One wing was curled behind his head, the other resting on his bulging belly. The sounds of his satisfied burps were just audible over the buzz of crickets and the hum of cars coming and going in the neighbourhood. "Oh, hush, Dave. He's just a child and a sensitive soul. There's plenty of time for him to find his wings. Just look at him. Isn't he a good-looking fellow?" Val's voice was full of motherly pride. "A child? When I was his age, I'd long left home and was learning about the real world. And yes, look at him. He's not fat yet, but he's heading there. If we keep stuffing him full of food, he's going to plummet like a stone the first time he tries to take flight. That boy needs to get off his backside and start exercising those wings. And we need to motivate him, otherwise he'll never do it." Although she couldn't deny that her little Wally was starting to bulge in the wrong places, Val instinctively recoiled at criticism of the apple of her eye. Dave sidled up next to her, giving her a gentle nuzzle on the neck that sent little tingles all the way down to the tips of her claws. "Besides," he added in a husky voice, "I want that nest back, so I can have a bit of quality time alone with my best girl." He finished off by mellifluously burbling a few bars of one of Val's favourite songs. She was reminded of how little time she and Dave had to themselves since Wally had come along. "Maybe you're a tiny bit right, love. How about we start encouraging him to do a daily workout? Just gentle at first, mind you, because he is a bit delicate," she added. Dave rolled his eyes at this last comment. At last, he thought, progress. "You just leave that to me, darling. Now, come on, give me a cuddle." As Wally finished a sumptuous breakfast of mixed insect the next morning, he had no idea what was about to hit him. "Right, mate, rise and shine. It's time for a bit of exercise." Dave stood over him in a businesslike stance, wings on his hips. Wally recoiled in alarm and instinctively looked at Val. "Really, Mum? Do I have to? You know I'm not the sporty type." She swallowed anxiously, feeling like a terrible mother, but duty-bound to stick to the agreement made with Dave. "I know, love, but you might even start to like it if you give it a try. And home is beginning to get a little bit crowded. We can't all live in this nest together forever, you know. At some point you will move out, start looking after yourself, and maybe even have your own family. How are you going to do that if you can't fly?" Wally tried to summon up his most indignant pout, although having a beak made it difficult. He desperately tried to think of an effective counter-argument. There was no doubt that, if his sympathetic mum had been won over by his far more resolute dad, it would be an uphill battle. But he didn't get the chance to even speak. Dave cut him off. "Don't even think of arguing. This is for your own good. Haven't you seen that big ginger cat on the ground below? The one that keeps on looking up at this nest with a hungry look on its face. How do you think it got that big? If you can't carry your own weight when the time comes to fly, you're going to end up down there where it lives, along with many other cats. They will all be more than happy to make a meal of you, given the opportunity. If you want to fly, you have got to get fitter and stronger. That's where exercise comes in. From now on, you only get fed after you've done the program I've designed. It'll get you right and ready for the first time you leave the nest, which happens 2 weeks from now. Now Wally was really listening. Val looked alarmed. Do we really need a deadline, love? That seems rather soon. She spoke hesitantly, not wanting to undermine Dave. But he was on a roll and undeterred. Absolutely, sweetheart. If we don't give our comfortably complacent little darling a wing up the wazoo, it's never going to happen. He turned his gaze back on Wally. 2 weeks it is, and we start right now. So up you get, and do as I do. The threat of missed meals was sufficient to persuade Wally to comply, although he was less than enthusiastic in his embrace of the fitness program. He didn't enjoy the effort and discomfort involved. Despite Dave's curt and clear ultimatum, in the back of his mind, he couldn't help hoping that the threat of eviction was an empty one. He was sure, at least he hoped, that when it came to the crunch, Dave would back down. For one thing, despite her support for his dad's ultimatum, his mum had seemed less staunch, and surely his dad could see that he was just not the exercising type. After all, they were his parents. It was their job to look after him, wasn't it? When the designated departure day dawned, Wally awoke from a fitful sleep filled with ferociously fanged feline phantasms. He found his parents waiting for him on either side of the nest. Wakey, wakey, sunshine, Dave cheerfully announced. Today is the day you start to learn how to find your own breakfast. We'll show you the best spots to forage and how to catch worms, but first you've got to be able to get there under your own steam. Wally felt his innards churn ominously. He hopped to the edge of the nest to poop before he had an accident. That's it, son. You may as well get rid of any excess baggage before you take off. With luck you'll get that Ginger Tom right in the eye and scare it away. There was a note of glee in Dave's voice. Oh, Dave, stop it. You'll scare the boy, Val tut-tutted. Dave chuckled. Nothing like the flavour of fear to sharpen the senses and get everything ready for action. He turned to Wally. So how about we do it then? We're all peckish, so let's get cracking. Wally clung to the branch on which he perched with a death grip. While he had tried to avoid thinking too much about the prospect, this was not how he expected to feel when he took flight. Why was his heart pounding so hard in his chest? Wasn't it meant to be easy? What about it? Just a few more days of practice, Dad. I'm a slow learner. Dave edged towards him. I know it's scary, son, but the first time always is. Don't make me push you. I don't want to, but I will if I have to. It's what my dad did, and while I hated him at the time, I thanked him for it afterwards. But it's much better if you take the initiative. Just remember everything I told you. Chin up and chest forward. He assumed the upright posture he was describing. Then a little jump and strong regular wing beats. You'll be fine. Before you know it, we'll be celebrating over breakfast. Wally looked towards Val, hoping for support, but she had already launched herself into space and was circling around the tree. Come on, lovey. It's easy once you get going, she cooed encouragingly. He looked at Dave once more. The steely glint in his father's eyes made it clear that Wally would receive no reprieve. He knew that the longer he delayed, the more difficult it would be. Almost without willing it, he submitted. Leaning forward, he unfurled his wings and started to beat them as he loosened his stranglehold on the branch. As he let go, he felt the irresistible pull of the void. Wind rushed through his feathers as he energetically flapped his wings. It felt exhilarating and terrifying. Hooray! I can do this, he thought triumphantly. I can fly. Val and Dave watched with alarm as Wally did an ungainly slow spiral towards the ground. All the while he produced a variety of enthusiastic tweets and whistles that suggested he was having a good time. He appeared oblivious to his imminent encounter with the earth. It was only when he was about 10 feet above the ground that he seemed to notice its approach. By flapping even harder and spreading his wings, he managed to arrest his fall and landed in the branches of a small tree 4 or 5 feet above the ground. That was fun-ish, was Wally's first thought as he composed himself after his first flight. It had certainly been feather-raising, but he hadn't expected to enjoy it quite so much. He was keen to give it another try, though not entirely sure how he would get back up to the branch he had just left. Suddenly he experienced a strong sensation of being watched. He looked down. The cool green eyes of a large cat gazed intently up at him. Sitting in the greenery under the tree was the Ginger Tom, looking very pleased with itself. "Hello, breakfast," it purred. Its voice was a sinister serpentine hiss. "I knew if I hid down here in the bushes it would eventually pay off. I've been keeping an eye out for you. I do love a plump little fledgling in the spring. So tasty and tender. Yummy!" It yawned lazily, revealing a gaping maw full of sharp white fangs. Wally could hear the alarm calls of his parents echoing above him, but they couldn't help. They were unable to even offer a supportive swoop because the cat was surrounded by the foliage on the ground around the tree. He suddenly felt very vulnerable and alone. "Come on, son, get going, fly, you've got to get out of there." The urgency in Dave's voice rang out, but Wally was frozen to the spot. Then the Ginger Tom stood up in a leisurely fashion and started effortlessly climbing up the tree's slender trunk. Wally immediately began shuffling fearfully along the branch, moving away from where it met the trunk. The further out along the limb he went, the more he could feel it starting to bend under his weight. The cat eventually reached the point on the trunk level with Wally and started to creep slowly and carefully along the branch towards him. It smiled menacingly, baring its gleaming canines at him. He could smell its fetid breath wafting across the space between them. Wally edged even further out along the branch, which was now starting to bow very noticeably under their combined weight. "Don't make this difficult for us, breakfast," the cat gloated. "It's all going to end the same way. But I'll be doing you a favour, really, saving you from all the difficulties and unpleasantness of life. What about if I make it quick and bite your head off? How does that sound?" By now the ginger menace was only a foot away from him and was clearly enjoying toying with its terrified target. Wally's short life was rapidly flashing before his mind's eye. If he tried to move further along the branch, he risked slipping off. He mumbled a prayer of deliverance. Just then a flash of black and white streaked past him as Val pulled a death-defying maneuver to try to help her son. She swooped down through the foliage and delivered a savage peck to the cat's rear. The cat let out an indignant yowl and twisted round to unleash a lethal swipe of its unsheathed claws, but it was too late. Val had already beat a hasty retreat. While lashing out, the tom lost its balance and started to topple off the branch. As it slipped, it managed to hook the sharp claws of its front paws into the branch. This arrested its fall, but left it dangling in space, looking furiously up at Wally. "You little rat," it hissed at Wally. "I was going to make it easy on you. Not now." The branch was now no longer horizontal, but curved like a bow due to the combined weight of the dangling cat and a terrified Wally perched precariously at its end. He clung on for dear life as the branch wobbled while the cat tried to pull itself back up. Suddenly another feathered form flashed past as Dave joined the rescue mission. As he swooped in, he targeted the defenceless puss's painfully pecked posterior. It shrieked in anger and frustration and let go of the branch. As it did so, it unleashed all the pent-up energy in the bent bough, which whipped forcefully upwards. An astounded Wally was catapulted into space. He instinctively opened his wings and started to beat them with all his energy. A vitality he had never known he possessed was coursing through him. Suddenly he realized he was moving upwards and away from danger. Looking down, he could see the cat perched gingerly on the ground, glowering resentfully back up at its intended victim. Val and Dave joined him, and the trio flew off, one parent on each side of Wally. He revelled in the sensation of the wind whistling through his wing feathers as he pushed himself ever upward through the liquid air. So this was what flying really felt like. "Phew, that was a bit close for comfort," Val commented. Dave chuckled. "You're right there, darling. But look at our Wally now. And did you see, we both got that mangy moggy right where it hurts. It'll remember us for a while every time it sits down. And well done, son. You kept your head there. What do you want to do now?" Wally realized he was ravenous. "Didn't you say something about worms?"